Hello, welcome to the second episode of American in Peril, the podcast, my podcast. It's still, we're shooting after hours, keeping my voice down just slightly. There's people sleeping in the house. Also, just a warning for the audio, my dog was being really annoying, so I gave her a bone to chew on, and that's the only way I could get audio that doesn't have her screaming. So we're just going to deal with that. And then hopefully the audio will get a lot better because I'm moving on Saturday to my own apartment, well, shared with my boyfriend and my dog. But nevertheless, my own apartment with an office where I can dedicate all the room I want to this. And if I don't want my dog around and I don't want my boyfriend in there, they don't have to be in there. So anyway, incoming quality improvement. This episode is going to be about some gripes I have. I guess when is it not? Last episode was about that too, more or less. But this is a focused episode on the concept of a pick-me woman, or sometimes known as the cool girl, like from Gone Girl, you know, when she's like, cool girls watch football, cool girls peg. She doesn't say that, but I can't remember what she says. In that context, it's a woman who pretended to like all the same things as her husband until it drove her crazy, and she frames him for her murder. That's like not what a pick-me is. But it's, you know, maybe for Amy Dunn, that was her trajectory, that was her life story. Anyway, before I get into that, though, I'm just going to talk about my week. I, yesterday, saw Arctic Monkeys, as you can see on my sweatshirt, if you're watching on YouTube. They've been one of my favorite bands for, like, a long time. Like many other little girlies who grew up on Tumblr. No surprise there, probably, that's what I am. I grew up listening to them. They were very much a significant part of my, like, middle of high school experience. I have, like, a very vivid memory of listening to Why'd You Only Call Me When You're High very loudly while waiting for friends to come over at one point. I think I was home alone, and I get a knock on the door by two Mormon missionaries. And that was enough for them to just leave, I guess, was me opening the door with Arctic Monkeys blasting. Just a normal afternoon in the life of 15-year-old Mackenzie. It's weird, though, because I was talking to my mom. I was like, I'm going to go to see Arctic Monkeys. And she's like, oh, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, well, they were there the whole time. I think she literally bought the vinyl for me, so I don't know what that's about. But, they were definitely up there in my little brain forming things. And not to overshare. Honestly, this is kind of a topic that I find interesting. I've only read fan fiction about 3 different guys. One of them being Alex Turner from Arctic Monkeys. What do people read fan fiction for? Because, like, I just watched an essay video earlier today on Larry, like, Liam, no, not Liam, it's Louis Tomlinson and Harry Styles, like One Direction, right? Like, that was a huge thing, was people, I guess it still is, people wanting Louis and Harry to, like, be gay together. And that I guess I can understand. I can understand that. That, like, makes sense to me logically. Like, they're both cute guys, and the majority of people with this opinion that they, like, are together or were together or whatever are straight women who are, they like the idea, you know? That's not something I've ever done. And that is, like, a little bit shocking to me. Actually, I can't say that. I did have, like, a year of my life where I was, like, very invested in John Locke, Sherlock, and John Watson, from Sherlock BBC. Classic moments in my life. So that's the only time that I've done that. But I've never done that with real people. I do find that a bit strange. Like, I was very into Dan and Phil, YouTubers, actually are gay. And people were also very into trying to prove that they were together and writing fan fiction about them. And I just had no interest in that. I think that that's weird. I think that's strange. I even think with, like, fictional characters, like, I kind of just don't get the appeal unless, like, I guess, like, something like John Locke where it just... I don't know why specifically. Maybe that's the same principle because I did, not necessarily something I wanted to admit today, but I did find Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman, attractive. So I guess that's it. I guess that's why. I do have a former professor that wrote a book on this, gay shipping specifically. Hers was through, like, a Korean lens, like K-pop stuff and K-dramas. So maybe I should read that and get educated on why straight women really like to see men go at it with each other in a fictional way with words and maybe fan art. Especially when they're teenagers. Not the guys, the girls writing the fan fiction. It's, like, very much like a teenage thing. Although I'm aware people do that as adults. I like to pretend that that's not happening. Anyway, me personally, if I have ever read fan fiction in my life, which I guess I'm admitting to, but also let's pretend I haven't said that, I'm reading self-insert stuff about guys, singular, or sometimes two, fighting over me. And that's just how I roll. So anyway, that's how we're starting off the episode. It has nothing to do with the topic today, but that was on my mind. Arctic Monkeys concert yesterday, really fun, really good. I took my boyfriend, and I think he had never been to a concert that big before. It was at, like, the stadium nearest us, and it was a little overwhelming for him, but he trundled through it, and I'm proud of him. He also got to see Fontaine's DC, which he really enjoys. I really enjoy as well. They were good. Fun concert. And then I have nothing coming up concert-wise until 1975 in December. So, which is a bit weird for me. This is something that I haven't talked about on the pod yet. I'm big on live music. I've seen a lot this year already. I did have to miss some just because of, like, life circumstances, that tickets that I bought for stuff, but that's because I buy a lot of tickets and stuff. I went to Coachella this year, so I saw loads of people at Coachella. For some reason, every time someone asks me who I saw at Coachella, I can only think about Young Lean, so I guess that made a big impression on me. But I also saw Charlie XCX, who I've seen multiple times before, but always great to see Miss XCX. I saw Boy Genius, I saw some of Muna, I saw Wet Leg, Magdalena Bay. I tried to see Frank Ocean. That didn't work out for me very well. I was at the fumbled night. So I love going to shows. It's a good time for me, so it was a good weekend. Also, I think just a good weekend because I spent most of it trying to actively recuperate for once in my life, instead of pushing myself to do things. So all of Saturday was pretty much spent watching YouTube videos and TV. I've been catching up on Yellow Jackets. My friend Elena told me that it was really good, and I'd seen, like, the first 2 episodes, and I was like, this is fine. Like, I get what it's doing. It's like Lost meets like a teen show. But it's very good. I finished the first season yesterday. And I would recommend it. I thought it was quite good. I'm going to start season 2 soon, I'm sure. Yeah, there's some characters that I like more than others. And there's a couple people that really annoy me. I'm not going to say until I finish through season 2, because I don't want to, like, you know, egg on my face if it turns out that I actually like them later. But yeah, good show. Very enjoyable, very fun. Yeah, I guess, okay, whatever. That's enough. I'll stop talking about my life and my current thoughts on things and just get into the topic of the episode, which is what you're here for. I get really bad vocal fry when I'm trying to be quiet. Kind of sucks. I am a West Coaster by birth, so it's just something that I deal with regularly, is having an annoying voice. If you haven't listened to the first episode, which I did, I released an episode. We're doing this. It's a podcast. I aim to take a topic every week or semi-week to 2 weeks. We'll see what this upload schedule is like as I get moving. Something that I've been noticing as like a cultural trend. I break it down for you. I complain about it because I think most trends are annoying. And we have a nice little think about it together. And I feel like last episode, you know, I talked a little about, like, I think a lot of the conversation around Taylor Swift is, like, quite irritating. And then it's sort of shaping a lot of discourse about how we talk about women and girlhood specifically. So I thought I would stay in that trend of talking about women, because I'm one. I experience these things. To talk about the concept of the pick-me woman, which is something that I've seen thrown around a lot recently. Yeah, could be a pick-me woman, a pick-me girl. I don't know if there's pick-me gays or theys, but if they're out there, maybe this episode is for you too. I do want to preface this with, like, I hate the term. We're going to break down why I hate the term. I don't want you to think that I'm taking any of this very seriously. There you go. I'm never taking anything very seriously. That's just, you'll get to know me. I think what brought this all back into the lexicon, if you will, is all of this Ariana Grande drama that happened earlier this summer, which is that situation brought back the term girl's girl into the cultural lexicon as well. And they're sort of offshoots of one another. Like, they are each other's polar opposites, the yin to each other's yang, if you will. It's just either you're one or the other, apparently. If you want to be, if that's something you get a kick out of, is putting yourself into polarized positions on what a woman can be. Ariana Grande, I like her. I have no problem with her. I think her music is quite good. I've been of this opinion for, not to brag, a long time. I was a Victorious girl when I was in, like, elementary, middle school. Always thought she was the best singer of the group. Like, her red hair. There you go. Then her music started coming out when I was, like, in high school-ish. Liked all of that. Have enjoyed everything she's put out to some degree. She seems fine as a person. Some people, apparently, would disagree with me because this summer she started dating someone named Ethan Slater, who I think has a name that you would see in, like, a 90s teen movie, but he doesn't look like that at all. He looks like a guy who, like, maybe you put, like, a pin on the back of his head and it's like you're bringing all this skin back so you can see like the shape of his skull, and then you kind of squeeze them together a little bit. I'm sorry, Ethan, I'm being a little bit mean. Anyway, Ariana, she was married to, prior to this, Ariana was married to the Christian version of Pete Davidson, Dalton Gomez. I do think they look quite a bit alike. She's got a type, I think. Averagely attractive white men with tattoos. I think that's fine. You could say that about me. She's been with him since 2020, apparently. They got married in 2021. He's a real estate guy, specifically luxury real estate. I think we can probably assume he, like, sold her a house or was in talks to sell her a house, and they started dating. Which, do we know? I don't know how professional that is in terms of, can you start dating your real estate agent? Is there a contract against that? I don't know. I'm going to say that there's not. But they've been separated since like May or June-ish. Timeline on that is a bit wonky, which coincidentally is around the same time that her co-star in the upcoming Wicked film adaptation, her little co-star Ethan Slater, who's also, this has been widely publicized, the originator of SpongeBob in the SpongeBob musical on Broadway. There's many a video you can find of him doing the laugh on stage. And yeah, so keep that in mind as we're talking about how many lives were ruined as of the result of these actions. He separated from his wife less than a year after they had their first child, mind you. This all adds to the scandal, which has led to people speculating that Ariana and Ethan cheated on their spouses with each other, which, like, I, being of journalistic integrity, cannot confirm or deny, although there are things backing this up. His ex-wife, came out and said that Ariana is not a girl's girl, and that she was to blame for their relationship ending. Hence the term girl's girl re-entering the public consciousness. There's also some stuff backing up Ariana doing this with relationships in the past. R.I.P. Queen Naya Rivera did write about this in her memoir when she was dating amazing, wonderful rapper Big Sean, that she came home to their shared home, she was engaged to him, and found Ariana Grande on their couch. And then they started dating after that, Big Sean and Ariana. So, that's questionable. Also, one of the Janoskians, which is something related to Vine, I'm not going to get into right now. That's a whole different story. She was dating one of the Janoskians. I don't remember which one. Apparently he wrote like an open letter saying that he was cheated on by Ariana with Nathan Sykes of The Wanted, who also got into a fight with Louis Tomlinson from earlier. Anyway, there's also her hit single, Break Up With Your Girlfriend, I'm Bored. That's kind of self-explanatory. She's admitting to the crimes. Anyway, obviously all this is big pop culture news, if that's something that you're interested in, because she is one of the biggest pop stars on the planet. Like, she's up there with, like, I would consider her like an A- tier pop star. Like, if Beyonce and Taylor Swift and like The Weeknd are like A+ pop stars, like Ariana's right under that with like some of the previous A+ pop stars like Lady Gaga. Like, she's a little higher than Katy Perry. She's big. We all know about Ariana Grande. The ponytail, iconic. The spray tans, iconic. Anyway, people love drama, and she gave us some. Plus, the Ethan Slater stuff is a little bit objectively funny. Like, I don't know. You broke up your marriage for SpongeBob? Okay. Anyway, but also because Ethan's ex-wife, apparently her name is Lily, that's something I wrote in my notes, did go on the record to Page Six saying that her family was collateral damage of Ariana's actions, which to me sounds a little bit like blaming Ariana, but I've also been cheated on and put a lot of blame on the woman. So, people go through things when that happens and they get mad at the other person, even though it's like kind of the spouse's fault. So whatever. So people kind of ran with the girl's girl thing because it's like snappy. Like you can latch onto that and you can be like, wow, someone said a really concise insult about another person. I want to make people feel bad with the same terminology. And they made their tweets, they made their TikToks, what have you, about the concept. There's a great video on this by Madison Brown on YouTube. I can link it out in the description of this video because I used it as research, and also it's a good video. All this like girls stuff is like covered there in way more depth than I'm gonna cover today. So if this is something that interests you, don't refresh with me, just go watch the video. But basically, a girl's girl is a girl who puts the needs of other women first. You care more about the well-being of other women than you do about yourself and like your own desires and needs, even when it doesn't necessarily suit you. This could be, having a crush on someone who's in a relationship and obviously being like, well, that's off limits, which I think is more just like a moral thing you should do generally, but some people see that as being part of the girl's girl ethos. Or even like you could probably argue like at a job, like putting other women first on projects instead of men, or hanging out with groups of women outside of work or any other, like your main friend group is like mostly women, and you cherish your relationships with them, which I think is a positive thing. That is not what I'm criticizing. Obviously sisterhood, it's a thing. Basically, the sisterhood means so much to you that you would do nothing to jeopardize it. That's a girl's girl. There are some flaws in this logic, I think, in terms of where the ex-wife was coming from, and which sort of sparked this whole conversation. As I said earlier, it kind of ignores the man's role in all of this. Ethan didn't have to leave his wife and his new child for Ariana Grande. I will say that's a pretty hard bargain. Like, Ariana Grande is like a multimillionaire and hot. So like, I get it. But like, is that all on Ariana for being like disloyal to another woman? Or is it like kind of more primarily on Ethan? You know what I mean? Especially because like, I don't know, you can be a girl's girl in a way that has nothing to do with men. Like someone who carries tampons in their purse at all times, even when they're not on their period, just because another woman could be on her period, or like you engage in very traditionally feminine activities. Maybe you primarily work with women, you're a hairdresser or something. Like, you can make an argument that kind of person is also like a girl's girl. But it does tend to get brought up specifically when these negative situations arise to like deride other women for not being a girl's girl. Like, do you stand with men or are you for the girls? Do you get what I'm saying? Personally, I think I'm just not a fan of the term. It just kind of feels like a little alienating of women that don't necessarily find that much in common with other women very easily, which like I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. People have different interests. There are, I think, a lot of women who find commonality with very similar things, things that often get stereotyped, like beauty, shopping, going out to brunch. Like, those are things that I think a lot of women can find commonality in and like have similar experiences and are encouraged to do together. But like, not everybody's going to have that interest. And I don't think that necessarily doesn't make you like for women. But I think it can very easily get used against you in a way that's like, oh, well, they're not for the girls because they're not going to brunch with the gals. It feels like another way to alienate people for not having mainstream feminine ideals about themselves. Although I understand, like, the moral implications of the terminology as it's been used most recently is, like, very specific. I kind of don't know if it should be used there either. I just think it's, like, a very, like, 2010s girl boss-esque way of framing things. Like, we sort of adopted that idea around that time, you know, the Broad City, Hillary Clinton-esque wave of feminism. It's like, well, you have to support women at all times, other women, like, their rights and their wrongs, you know? And I think that as we've progressed as a society, is not only, like, alienating for people, but it's, like, incorrect. Like, frankly, it's just incorrect. There's plenty of women doing things that I don't want to support, right? Like, in my state, most recently, our two political options for governor were both women, but they were on completely different sides of the political spectrum, you know? Like, just because someone's a woman doesn't mean they're going to have good opinions. Like, in the workplace, for instance, where I think supporting other women just for being women can be useful. Like, you know, just making sure people get their piece of the pie in situations where, like, maybe the space is very male dominated. But politically, or just on a personal level, like, I don't have to like everyone. That's just how it is. I don't know. Also, this is on me. And I think some people are gonna not like me after saying this, but I have been the other woman, and it is not something I'm proud of. Let's get that out of the way. Not something I'm proud of. And I don't think I should be excused for it on any level. I think if the girl in question ever wanted to have a chat with me about it, I think she'd be totally within her rights to do so, even though it's been like 6 or 7 years. I was a lot younger. I was 18, 19. I wish I hadn't done it for a lot of different reasons. One of the big ones being that guy sucked, which is a common thread you'll find in these situations. I'm in a much healthier relationship now. So, you know, many regrets, you know, but I don't think that I went into that situation specifically trying to hurt another person, although obviously that's what I was doing. And I don't necessarily think this is the Ariana Grande situation 1-to-1, because, like I said, she has a track record. You can make your own moral judgments on that. But I think a lot of the time, if you've been cheated on, the other person either maybe didn't even know that you existed, which is totally a thing that happens, or they were given a certain narrative by the person that you were dating, that made them believe, like, oh, this will work out for me, and, like, I won't be the other woman for very long, and, like, it won't hurt the other person because, like, this relationship is already over, basically. Like, in that particular situation, I didn't let it go very far. Like, he had to break up with her before we, you know, started dating. So, like, I did my due diligence, but I also did a bad thing. Yeah, I was definitely under the impression that, like, oh, well, it wasn't that bad because, like, the relationship was going to end. He was going to end it, blah, blah, blah. You know? And I think at the end of the day, it was more on him than it was on me, even though I obviously pursued the situation as well. And I take full accountability for that. But I don't think it doesn't make me for the girls. I think it was an unfortunate situation that I did out of immaturity and some insecurity and just being a rancid little child. I think, you know, people do things when they're unhappy, and you kind of just have to take it on an individual level, and not let it speak for all of their moral aptitude. Is that the word? Anyway, yeah, I think it's really easy to point fingers in those kinds of situations. especially at the woman in the situation, in situations where the man is cheating specifically. And that's not fair. It ain't cool. It's not nice. And I think girl's girl has been weaponized in a very specific way to act as a way to advocate for like positive relationships between women, but really is like meant to tear other women down for acting a certain way. That is like objectively, not great, but at the same time, I think doesn't leave a lot of room for nuance. Nuance is a thing that we sometimes can have. But yeah, I think on the flip side of that, I acknowledge we all have like a common thread of experience, and that like being for the girls has its purpose. I would like to think that I am somewhat of a girl's girl, even if I don't like the term. So I guess ending that part of the segment with don't make choices without considering the full moral consequences. But also, if something like that happens to you and you get cheated on, don't fully blame the woman. I mean, obviously she's at fault too, but blame your shitty boyfriend, husband, man. He's the one who did that to your relationship, Anyway, moving on to, so what does that make like a pick me? Because that's what this is about. Who's getting picked? Who's me? I assume many people have heard this term. It apparently originated around 2016 when a hashtag became popular on Twitter, now X, which we don't talk about, called hashtag tweet like a pick me. So it's like a really long hashtag. We got snappier with those as we went on, apparently, where women would mock other women, specifically women who act desperate to get male attention, and throw other women under the bus to get attention from men. Specifically, it targeted women who put down other women in favor of the man they're married to or are dating, although it seems mostly to be women who were married. It may have also stemmed from a tweet that said, and I quote, "No offense, and offense is spelled wrong, but if you don't support your man's football team, you're a snake. Lol. I don't care. I don't care." End quote. Which is obnoxious. First of all, would never date someone who watches football on the reg. Like, that's just not for me. So you've lost me already with that. Second of all, maybe this is a question for the ladies who are dating people that watch sports. Mine only watches video essays about baseball, but he doesn't actually watch baseball. So I don't think I count. Do you feel a moral, impetus to watch all these games with your partner? Is that something you bond over? Do you actually care, or is it just something that you watch because they enjoy it? Big questions. I think personally that if I was dating someone who's really into sports, that I couldn't handle it. I've intentionally never done that because I find it hard enough in the first place to sit down and watch something I'm not interested in just because someone I love is interested in it, which is a flaw on my part. I fully admit that. But that's why I choose to hang out with people that have all the same interests as me. So I'm also self-aware enough to make that choice. And I don't understand intentionally being with someone and not having the same interests in that way. But I know many people do it. Many, many, many people do that. Anyway, do you watch football? Do you care? Can you leave comments on Spotify? I think you can. Anyway. So there are some examples of this hashtag that I'm also going to read out. And know that these are all highly sarcastic and intentionally made to mock someone. This first one is by @MamaGumbo. "I am not like girls in this generation. I take care of my man. I cook for him every day, chew his food, spit it into his mouth, and tell him he's my king. Truly not like you hoes." Which I think is very funny. There's certainly people like that. Many people like that. And I found another good one by @WantSomeTea. You girls really out here leaving after your man cheats once? Let him make his mistakes. Watch him grow. Anyway, so that was the sort of tenor of those tweets at that point in time, which I think is like quite charming, if I'm being honest. Like, it's just, it's women having fun at the expense of other women, but like only because the other woman did the other shots first. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's totally fine. This is the kind of women not supporting women that I'm here for. Which is, it's fine to be a bit of a bitch to someone if they're putting like highly gendered expectations on you as a woman, which like women do to each other all the time. Like, people get mad at each other for like wearing stuff that's like out of trend and like not getting married within a certain period of time. Like, it's so weird that people do this to each other, but like they do. And like, because I was in a relationship where I was the other woman, I ended up also getting cheated on. Like, I did hear from family members, like, sometimes that just happens. And it's like, well, hold on. Let's rewind that. No, it should not. Let's not. How about we not? So I feel like that definitely exists. And I acknowledge the need to push back through humor. And just like, casual reminder, don't support someone you're dating if he cheats on you. And if his interests don't spark joy in you, you can go do something else in another room. That's totally fine. Also, please don't feed him. Cook together. Take turns. Don't be the only person cooking. So weird. Anyway, over time, it seems like the pick me phrase moved on from that hashtag, where it had a very specific root in like women telling other women what to do with their lives, moving sort of away from that, you know, genuinely like toxic, negative kind of person, to like a woman who has male coded interests or like opinions that other women sometimes disagree with, which is not great. I think this can be seen like really succinctly in this Cosmo article that I found. Cosmopolitan is in like the Sex and Love magazine, with the title "Everything You Need to Know About Pick Me Girls Explained." So they really act like they are the authority on the subject. I'm just going to read the paragraph. Amelia wants nothing less than to be seen as a pick-me girl. Popularized on TikTok, the term is the viral baby of the cool girl, which I mentioned earlier, and the not like other girls girl. A pick-me sets herself apart from other women by denouncing concepts socially associated with femininity and embracing activities, interests, and habits traditionally enjoyed by straight, cisgender, heterosexual men. Think preferring to drink beer and watch sports with the guys over marathoning The Bachelor or going to brunch with the girls. It's totally transparent and pathetic, Amelia says. Pick-me girls see other girls as competition instead of friends. Hold on. That was only about interests. That was about drinking beer with the boys. Which is totally normal behavior that I sometimes engage in myself. And saying that you are apparently being a pick-me for not watching The Bachelor? I don't fucking... who watches The Bachelor? I know plenty of people that watch The Bachelor, actually. But, like, okay, get real. That's not what that term should mean. But that's how I see it applied every time I see it nowadays. And it makes me feel insane. Like, it's no longer about women who tear down other women. It's just straight up women tearing down other women for, like, quote-unquote denouncing concepts socially associated with femininity. Have you considered that some of these women might be like non-normative in like their gender presentation, or like maybe they're gay, or like maybe they simply do not have interests that align with like the average like feminine stereotype? Oh, it makes me so mad. Yeah, it's like, as it stands right now, like more about chastising someone for like falling outside of like to like call the article on its bluff, like heteronormative, like straight woman, whereas it should be used to like mock women who shame other women. How that 360'd into actually shaming other people is crazy to me. Like, that article mentioned barely anything about cheating or like quote unquote serving your man. Like it was about women who like don't have feminine interests. That is crazy. And like I know that there's like this stereotype of like girls who are not like other girls, like, oh, I don't wear pink, blah, blah, blah. But like those are mostly kids. Like that is childish behavior, and like it's completely normal to go through also. And like it is also sometimes I think like a precursor to girls just figuring out who they are and like what they want to be. That's all totally fine. Anyway, to trace the term back even further, I was able to trace it back to Grey's Anatomy. This tends to be what people agree it comes from. A show that is also coded as very socially feminine. And it comes from a very popular scene, which I even remember being like a huge deal on the show when I was like a kid and would sometimes watch it with my mom, where the lead character, Meredith Grey, asks McDreamy, the guy she's seeing, kind of, to pick her over his wife, who he's divorcing, because she pleads to him to, like, love her and choose her. It's been, like, romanticized as, like, a big, you know, romantic gesture, blah, blah, blah. As well as criticized as being, like, unfeminist because she's begging him, you know, and, like, women shouldn't have to beg, which I do agree with. Plus the whole, you know, break up with your girlfriend because I'm bored of it all, you know. And I think, you know, valid critiques there, sure. To bring it back around, I think there's like a lot of valid critiques you can have about women who complain about other women's interests all the time, from either side of that aisle, like either people who have very normative interests versus people who have, you know, crack a cold one with the boys kinds of interests. Like, I think it is annoying to be like, oh, women do shop. Why do women like to go to the mall? Like, let them do that. I like to do that. But I kind of feel like if you're gonna get real about it, like, those kinds of women are also, like, alienated for a reason. Like, they feel disconnected from something in that experience, and that is, like, very real, and, like, they're allowed to feel that way. And it has very little to do with you and a lot more to do with them. And like I said, I think it's very common, especially for younger women and girls, to go through like that I'm not like other girls phase. And it's, you know, equally as normal to just get annoyed with that social pressure to act in a very feminine way. And that is often like a pushback to that. You know, I even felt like a knee-jerk reaction to act that way when, like, Barbie was big earlier this year, because, like, I didn't connect with it. And, like, it did make me feel like I was acting like a not like other girls girl. But at the same time, it's like, well, I'm being honest. I'm admitting to my experience. And, like, apparently that's not cool. Like, you know, people love to act like they're so accepting. And then, like, you can have, like, a minorly, like, non-normative opinion on like your experience as a woman, and all of a sudden like everybody's gonna have a thing to say about you. It's crazy. You know, whether you like it or not, going to brunch and seeing the Barbie movie is a social pressure. It's a social pressure to put on women and like make them have certain consuming habits, which is like, I mean, I work in marketing, that's on me too, but you know, it's a real pressure that people feel, and it's like highly constructed at like a societal level. And you listening to this, put it on people whether you know it or not. Like, watching The Bachelor is a social pressure. Like, I've been at work and people have talked about it and really highly encouraged me to watch it, or like Vanderpump Rules. And it's like, do I have interest in watching those things? Not really. But I sometimes do, because it's like I have to keep up with work conversation, or like I may not make friends at work. There you go. Like, it can and will alienate you from other women to not have certain interests. And that sucks. It sucks. You know, and I don't think that means that everybody should just go along with social pressure to, like, make friends. You know, especially the kinds of women that put on social pressure to, like, let your boyfriend treat you like his mommy. Like, that's not cool either. You know, make your own choices. And only give in to social pressure when you feel like it's really necessary. I make those choices every day. Yeah, I guess maybe I feel like it's just become normalized to use like social justice frameworks to like tear down other people, especially for women, to tear down other women for not, you know, supporting other women, quote unquote, when like, you know, really you might just be having a not like other girls moment, and that's totally fine. Those are totally fine moments to have. I'm giving you permission to go roll around in the mud like a pig if that's what you want to do. Yeah. And it's not like we live in a moment where like there's bigger things to worry about, you know? There's so many bigger things as like a woman to worry about. You know, Roe v. Wade is gone. That's a thing. That's real. That's tangible. Like, I know women in my life that have had abortions, and like, you know, if they lived in a different state, they may not have been able to have that choice. So if I'm gonna get mad about something involving women, it's not gonna be like who they're dating or like what they're doing. It's gonna be, you know, the bigger thing that has like life-altering consequences. And, you know, just like getting online every day and seeing men be like, oh, well, you know, she's over the age of 26, so she's a hag. And it's like, you know, other women getting mad because like Kylie Jenner's like dating Timothée Chalamet, or, you know, divorcing their husband and dating SpongeBob. Like, those are insane things to get mad about. Like, how does it impact you? You're just getting mad at other women for no reason. It feels like jealousy, probably, and that's like something I felt in my life for sure. But like, you're tearing people down. It ain't nice. I would just highly encourage you to, you know, let people live their lives a little bit. That is not to say that they're not real pick-me's, though. And I have an example for you. Russell Brand recently was outed as a bit of a, as the British say, nonce. May or may not, probably more likely did, but once again, journalistic integrity, has been accused of rape and sexual assault between 2006 and 2013. That's a long range of years. And there's a lot of women that have come forward, some that are quite young, by American standards would be considered underage. So it's very troubling. If it's something that you feel like you can stomach, I would encourage you to read the Sunday Times article. But anyway, on Twitter, where all horrible things happen, Red Scare host, you know, the podcast I mentioned last time about women being stupid, women, you know, because sometimes women can be stupid. Host Anna Kachayan has tweeted, "Lol, LMAO. I stand with Brand, obviously." I just have to say, that's what a pick-me is. Someone who stands with men through, like, accusations of partner violence. That's what that is. Like, there's no reason for someone to have an opinion like that unless, I guess, they haven't read the article, which, like, maybe she didn't, or just being contrarian and having, like, a rotten heart, I guess. Yeah. Like, I guess, you know, I think some women try to justify that to themselves as like, oh, well, due process, you know? Like, people deserve their day in court. Which, like, whatever, sure. Or, you know, maybe you're, like, a right-wing conspiracy theorist who, like, thinks that Russell Brand is getting targeted by, like, UK authorities for questioning the COVID vaccine. So, do you have worms for brains? Anyway, yeah. So there's definitely things to be mad at other women about, and I think it's just not the things we tend to get mad at each other about. So that's the end of my podcast rant today. I think if you put down other women and gossip about them and treat them like shit, you should reconsider that. I'm gonna keep doing it sometimes because it's fun sometimes to do that, but I think you should try not to, and I'm gonna try not to. Especially, like, you know, putting down other women for the things they wear, the things they do with their time, their hobbies, whether they're married or having babies, or whether they have, you know, a highly feminine look, or if they're a bit butch. I think we should all support each other and be having a good time together. That's what girl power is to me. If you do feel like being a little evil, I guess you can go find people online that think that Russell Brand didn't do it. don't do that, actually. I don't want anything traced back to me for bullying and harassment online, but if you're gonna be evil to someone, go be evil to someone who's, like, actually being evil first. Not Ariana Grande or Kylie Jenner, even though, like, they're multimillionaires and probably aren't even seeing it. Better example, don't be mean to your coworker for not wanting to go to brunch with you. Like, that's fine. She's allowed to do that. That's all. That was a really ranty podcast, I think. But maybe there's, like, a gem in there somewhere. Anyway, that's it. That's all. To end the podcast with things I've been enjoying recently. I sort of started the podcast with that, but anyway. For music, I've really been enjoying two things that... Speaking of things that could get people mad at you, I've been really enjoying Kim Petras, her new release, Problematique. I do have reservations about Kim Petras, but also I think her music slaps, so I'm just letting it be what it is. And I've always enjoyed her music, and, you know, a little French-themed record about being, you know, a woman who gets continually questioned for various reasons, some of which are valid, let me say, is quite interesting, at least artistically. So there you go. Also been enjoying Troye Sivan's new stuff, Rush and Get Me Started. Having the Shooting Star Vine music as like as a sample, I think is actually quite good. I wasn't expecting to like the sample, and I do. I like it very much. I already shouted out Yellow Jackets. I have that note here. And for two movies, I rewatched recently All About Lily Choo Choo. Is it Choo Choo or Shoo? I think it's Choo Choo, because I'm currently working on a screenplay that's like got some similar themes. So I like went back and watched it. Probably one of my favorite movies. I really enjoy that movie. It's about like coming of age in Japan in 2001, and two boys bond over like a Björk-like pop star through message boards, and they don't really know it's each other, and then things go way out of hand, and there's like a lot of like violence and like horrible like just things that happen. It's a very dark movie, but it's also like very sad and real and makes me feel a lot of things. So that's a great movie if that feels like something you can stomach. And if you want something more silly, I also rewatched The Bling Ring, and that is like, honestly, like, so Marie Antoinette is my favorite Sofia Coppola movies. Sofia Coppola being my favorite director. And I went to film school, so you can quote me on that. I think The Bling Ring is in my top 3 for movies. No. Oh, now I need to think about that. But it's still a 5. She's got 4, to me, 5-star movies, which, like, is so hard to do in this day and age. Virgin Suicides, Lost in Translation, Marie Antoinette, The Bling Ring. Bangers. Nothing but hits. So if you want to watch a movie, my recommendation, I think any of those 5 would be, you can't go wrong. Yeah, so that's me for today. Be nice to each other, especially if you're a woman. Yeah. All right. Goodbye. I'm gonna go to bed.